Hello everyone, my name is Ankit and you're watching the Indian Express analysis of 13th of February. Now today we are going to discuss important articles that have appeared in today's as well as yesterday's newspaper, because I covered already 6 important articles from yesterday's newspaper in our yesterday's session, but I found out there were many important articles, so I do not want you to miss out on any important articles. That is why I am going to cover in detail today's as well as yesterday's left out articles. Understood? Now good morning Shalini, hello. Classes कब start होगी? Well, classes start at 10 a.m. every day sharp. Yes. Now let us understand our today's discussion. This will include 6 articles that I have picked up from our newspaper. First is about an Einstein ring. It is an gravitational phenomena that happens across a dark matter or a black hole. So we'll understand in what cases these Einstein ring form and how it is useful for scientists to understand the progress of our universe. Now these type of articles, they are important from GS paper 3 as the syllabus highlights awareness related to space. Therefore, we'll be discussing in detail about what is Einstein ring, and we have seen also questions on various important gravitational as well as other space related phenomena. They have been asked in prelims before. So that is why it provides us with the necessary information which we can use if a similar question appears in the prelims examination. Now let me wear my jacket. It is unusually cold today, I guess because the AC is working. Yeah. Now, good morning Sandeep, good morning Purvasu, good morning Shalini again. Now, classes start every day at 10. Shalini, I told you, right? Now, moving to the second article. In this article, Supreme Court of India has disposed of a PIL which was filed on mob lynching. Now, Supreme Court said while disposing of this particular PIL that it already had given a judgment in a particular case in 2018 which was known as Tehseen Poonawala case. And this was also related to the incidences of mob lynching and how the government, particularly the state government, should consider or control these instances of mob lynching. So, we'll understand first of all what are the basics or what is actually a public interest litigation or PIL and how this can be controlled or used to control in instances of mob lynching, which we understand is a big problem that existed in Indian society. Right now, such discussions are important from polity syllabus. Therefore, it is a part of GS paper 2 syllabus. Then we'll move on to understanding the impact of Kanpur tanneries. Now, tanneries, these are processing industries, particularly of leather. Now, these leather processing, it requires use of harmful chemicals, which if not taken off carefully, it can leach out to water bodies, it can pollute the soils, and hence it can create problems of people who are working in these tanneries and also to the people who are living nearby these tanneries. So, we'll understand based on a study conducted by UP government how these Kanpur tanneries is creating a sort of health problem into the nearby area. Now, these kind of articles, they are important from environment perspective because it deals with the issue of pollution. Pollution in air, pollution in water body, pollution in soil. This is a part of GS paper 3 syllabus. Then we'll be understanding an index which has been passed or which has been brought by Transparency International. It is known as Corruption Perception Index. Now, we'll understand what is India standing in this index and how this index gauges the level of corruption, especially in the public authorities, right? Now, such indexes which are published, they are important from UPSC's perspective because we have seen in the past UPSC has asked without fail a question every year on important indexes. So, we'll understand corruption perception index, everything, so that if a question comes on corruption perception index, we'll be able to solve such questions, right? Then we'll be understanding change in shape of Earth inner core. Now, there was this study which has been published in Reuters and now again in Indian Express. This highlights that Earth's inner core, which is actually a solid core, it is expected that the shape may have changed, and because of that, the movement of Earth's liquid or outer core may also change, and that can lead to changes in Earth's magnetic field. Now, such kind of an article which belongs to GS paper 1, that is geography syllabus, are rather not so present in the newspaper. So, if any geographical related development happens, we make sure to cover it so as to keep you updated with the geographical related developments. Then we'll be discussing in last Supreme Court directions on how the Election Commission of India should proceed for verification of EVM, especially after the elections have ended, right? Now, EVM and their transparency or their use in election has been a subject of severe controversy. Particularly, if a party loses the election, we have seen that they start blaming EVM, that EVM was tampered with, they were hacked, so that is why we lost the election. But is it really so? Are EVMs hacked in India? We'll try to find out in today's exam. And what are the verification measures that have been adopted by ECI to make this entire process of election using EVM transparent? We'll also try to understand this. Now, such developments are also important from GS paper 2, because in the syllabus you will find Representation of People Act, which deals with everything related to election, is mentioned in GS paper 2 syllabus, and also EVM are used as per the provisions of RPA Act, that is Representation of People Act 1951. So, we will understand this article in quite detail. Now, as usual, the notes for this session will be available on my Telegram channel, the ATS Live. So please make sure to subscribe to this channel, as I upload the notes immediately after the session ends. And also you can use this channel to upload your answers, as I make sure to evaluate them also. If you are unable to find it using the code ATS Live, you can also have an option to search the QR code. Now, on my Instagram channel called as ENKTSNGH, I upload important reels which are very informative, and also these are important for our UPSC related perspective. So, please watch those reels and let me know how you like it or not, right? Now, before starting our today's session, let us solve yesterday's practice question, which actually was a PYQ which appeared in the prelims of the year 2020. Now, good morning Sejal, good morning Yashika. Mob lynching means, sir, Shalini, mob lynching actually is an incident where if there is a criminal and people catch them, so they kill them rather there itself, rather than handing it over to police or courts, right? So this is an instances of mob lynching, where mob take justice in their own hands and they beat that person to death, which is not right. Okay. Now, let us solve this practice question, which was a PYQ for 2020. Consider the following statements. The Constitution of India defines its basic structure in terms of federalism, secularism, fundamental rights and democracy. Now, does Constitution of India mentions the word basic structure anywhere, or does it define it? The answer is no. The term basic structure, it emerged out of Supreme Court judgment into the Keswananda Bharati case. This case, or the judgment of this case, was passed in 1973. Therefore, the term basic structure emerged from this, and it is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution of India. So, if the question states, does it define basic structure? The answer is incorrect. Now, the second statement, the Constitution of India provides for judicial review to safeguard the citizens' liberty and to preserve the ideals based on which the Constitution is based. Now, Constitution of India, it implicitly, that is indirectly, provides for the scheme of judicial review, that is through Article 13 subsection 2, Article 368 and Article 32. However, it does not use the term judicial review directly. So, if the question were to ask, or if the statement is like this, Constitution of India provides for judicial review, it is incorrect. Why? It does not directly mention the word judicial review, rather it allows the court to check the constitutionality of any measure passed by legislature or executive if it fulfills the criteria of fundamental right or not, right? So that is why it is not directly provided, rather only indirectly provided. So second statement also becomes incorrect. Now the correct answer to this question is none, or neither one or nor two, because both of these are correct. Therefore option D here is the right answer. Now, this will be the mains answer writing question that we'll try to attempt before the session ends. After that, I provide you with the necessary information on today's discussion on electronics voting machine, right? So, let us start our today's session with this first article of the day, which appeared in today's explain section, that is on page 14. Now, this article deals with the issue, or explains the phenomenon of Einstein ring. Why this Einstein ring is in news? Because European Space Agency's its telescope known as Euclid, it has actually discovered a ring of light known as Einstein ring around a galaxy which is located 590 million light years away. Now, what is light year? Light year is a term that defines the distance that light takes to travel in 1 year. So, this is the large distance, that is 590 million year away, and the Euclid Space Telescope has actually spotted an Einstein ring. Now the photos of this Einstein ring was actually taken in 2023 but was released now, and it shows a bright ball of light in the center with a bright cloudy ring around it. So this is how Einstein ring is. Now it was discovered around a galaxy known as NGC 6505. Do not need to remember, it is just a term for any other galaxy, right? Now this is an image of gravitational lensing or Einstein ring, right? This is a bright light and it is surrounded by a bright ring of light also, right? Now what is actually an Einstein ring? Now Einstein ring, it is actually named after the mathematician and physicist Albert Einstein, who needs no introduction, and he passed a very popular theory known as general theory of relativity. Now in this theory, Einstein predicted that actually the light, it can bend around the objects. And how does the light bend around the object? It is through the impact of gravitational forces. Now this first Einstein ring was discovered in 1987, much later than Einstein died, and since then several more have been discovered. However, it remains still unclear that how many of such Einstein ring actually exist. Now notably, these Einstein rings, they are very or extremely rare, and that is less than 1% of galaxies, they actually have a presence of Einstein ring. So that is why such photograph of Einstein ring or even spotting of Einstein ring is a rare incidence, and that is why this is an important news. Now what is actually an Einstein ring? Einstein ring is actually a ring of light around a form of dark matter, galaxy, or even a cluster of galaxies. Now, how this ring actually forms? It is through the process of gravitational lensing. Now, gravitational lensing is the phenomena that if an object exists, so currently I won't be able to see behind this object, right? But through the process of Einstein ring, the light actually bends around a massive celestial body just because of the impact of its gravitational forces. So, for example, this is your eye, and this is a massive celestial body around it. So normally you won't be able to see anything which is present in this part. But if this body has a massive gravitational forces, the light, it can actually bend around it and enable you to see things that are present in this area, right? So this is the phenomena of gravitational lensing, that the presence of massive gravitational forces, it forces the light to bend around it, hence allows the earth or any object to see even the objects which are located behind that gravitational body. So this is actually a light which is coming from distant galaxies, but because of gravitational lensing we are able to spot it, right? So this body causing the light to curve is known as gravitational lens. So this phenomena is called gravitational lensing, whereas the ring around it is called as Einstein ring, right? Now this actually the galaxy around which the Einstein ring was spotted, it was spotted through the phenomena of gravitational lenses. I have told you that. Now nearer galaxies, the massive galaxies, they distort and amplify the light coming from distant galaxies, and the galaxy around which we have located the Einstein ring, it is located 4.42 billion light years away. And as I told you, 1 light year is the distance that the light takes to travel in 1 year. So you understand, light is a very fast traveling object, right? And if it travels some distance in a year, and if it is located 4.42 billion light years away, so you can understand the distance between Earth and this particular celestial body, right? Now these rings, or why do these rings are seen by the scientists, or how does these rings help scientists? First of all, these rings, they help scientists investigate the presence of dark matter. Now dark matter, it is expected that they consist about 85% of the total universe, but the dark matter, it also has the ability not to reflect the light back. So even if you spot the dark matter, you won't be able to see it because no light will be reflecting from it. So what is also observed, that around these dark matters, these Einstein ring form. So rather than spotting the dark matter, if we can identify the Einstein ring, we can surely say that between this Einstein ring there must be a presence of dark matter. So this is what the first purpose of identifying Einstein ring is, that we help, or we can look for the dark matter also just by spotting these Einstein ring, which is not otherwise possible just because these dark matters do not reflect the light. Also, these Einstein rings, they enable scientists to learn about distant galaxies which otherwise wouldn't be visible. As I told you, right, we are only able to see those distant galaxies because of the phenomena of gravitational lensing, because the light, it bends around massive galaxies and enables us to see even objects located behind it. And it also provides scientists the information about how the expansion of universe is happening, because every day the distance between any galaxy and Earth, it is expanding just because the universe is expanding. So if the distance between Earth and other celestial objects, it increases, without gravitational lensing we won't be able to see it, right? So this is how Einstein ring helps us to identify the expansion of universe. Correct? Now let us solve our first practice question of the day. With reference to Einstein ring, consider the following statement. It is a phenomena predicted by Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity. I told you in the first slide only, it is correct. It occurs when light from distant sources such as galaxies is bent around a massive object due to gravitational lensing. Again correct. An Einstein ring is always a perfect circular shape irrespective of the alignment of the source, lens or observer. Now this glass cover is of a perfect circular shape, right? But you can see it only because the lens of the camera is presented in front of it. But what if I present you this ring like this or like this? Will you be able to see its circular shape? No, right? Only because the lens is not aligned to its circular shape like this. So similarly, we can only watch Einstein ring when the viewer, the lens of the object and also the Einstein ring is placed in a similar line, then only we can identify any circular object, right? So use your common sense. Is it always in a perfect circular shape irrespective of the location of source, lens and observer? It won't be like this, as I told you right now. So that is why third statement becomes incorrect. First and second is right, third is not. We have to identify correct statement. Option A here is the right answer. Now moving to the second article. This article appeared in yesterday's newspaper on page 7 and it stated that the Supreme Court of India has actually disposed of a PIL on mob lynching. Now mob lynching, as many of you were asking, mob lynching is actually an instance where people catch a criminal, but instead of handing that criminal to police or to judicial authorities, what people do is beat that person to death. So is that actually a right form of justice? No, because we live in a civilized society, and what we do in civilized society is that respective judicial authorities, law and order authorities, they are responsible for administrating justice. They are responsible for catching thieves and criminals. So instead of catching the thief or beating him out, what we can do is catching the thief and hand it over to police. That will be the right thing to do. But people take law in their own hands and they beat that person to death, and that is called as mob lynching. Now this is a severe dangerous phenomenon, and people, authorities, Supreme Court, police, everyone wants to stop it. So that is why Supreme Court is actually considering cases on how to control these instances of mob lynching. So in that regard, Supreme Court earlier had considered a case which was filed by an advocate known as Tehseen Poonawalla, and they gave a judgment in 2018, and Supreme Court gave an elaborate judgment on how to control mob lynching in the Tehseen Poonawalla case. So that is why when a new PIL was found or admitted into the Supreme Court, it had to dispose of it. As I said, it has already given certain directions which are binding on all the authorities in the country, because under Article 141, and that is why there is no need for any new direction. So let us understand first of all what this PIL or public interest litigation is, and then let us try to understand what was Supreme Court's judgment in the Tehseen Poonawalla versus Union of India case, right? Now, PIL is actually a legal action that can be brought by any individual to enforce the right of that individual or for any other person, right? Now, there is a traditional law or traditional convention that is followed in the court of law that is called as locus standi. For example, if my right is evaluated or my right is violated, then only I can file the case in the Supreme Court, or my related persons can file it. But a third person who is unrelated to me can't file a case for me for my rights violation. So this is called as locus standi. Now Supreme Court in order to encourage filing of public interest litigation, it relaxed this traditional rule of locus standi. So rather, in cases of public interest litigation, any person in India can file case in the Supreme Court related to any incidences, even if he or she is not related to that incident, right? So this is what the PIL has done, that it encourages people to file for cases, particularly for people who do not are able to file the cases themselves. And that is why even a letter which is sent to the Supreme Court complaining about something, it can be admitted by the Supreme Court and be heard about it. So even a letter or a mail or a writ petition which is filed by any individual in India, be it a citizen of the country or even be a foreigner, will be considered by the Supreme Court as a part of public interest litigation. And courts, it can also take action based on newspaper and social media reports. Understood? So the part on which anyone can file PIL is quite wide, and hence public interest or the cases which violate public interest, these are heard by the Supreme Court and High Courts as per the PILs. Now let us understand what was the direction that was given by the Supreme Court of India as the part of Tehseen S. Poonawalla case. Now first of all, instances of mob lynching, these needs to be prevented. So Supreme Court gave certain preventive measures on how to prevent these instances of mob lynching from happening in the first place. Now first, all the state, they were directed to appoint a senior police officer as a nodal officer who will be responsible to prevent mob lynching incidences in any district. Also states, they will be required to identify areas where actually these lynching incidences can happen or they may have happened in the past, and also increase police patrolling in that area so as to prevent the law and order from going bad in that area. Also, the Supreme Court of India has instructed social media platforms so as to curb uses of hate speech and also spread of fake news, so that these fake news cannot ultimately result into mob violence or mob lynching incidences. So these are preventive measures that needs to be taken care of before, so that the mob lynching incidences do not happen at all. Now, in case, God forbid, certain mob lynching incidences happen anywhere, then you need punitive measures, that you need to punish the people who are responsible for such mob lynching incidences. And to punish those people, first of all, fast track courts will be set up in each districts, and these will be handling the mob lynching cases with priority. Also, the guilty, they should be punished with strict penalties, including the provision for life imprisonment for any crimes that may have participated related to mob and lynching incidences. And also, victims of these mob lynching incidences, they need to be compensated based on the severity of injury, loss of livelihood, and also how much medical expenses they need to spend in order to get themselves treated in the hospital or healthcare facilities. So these are the suggestions that were made by the Supreme Court relating to the mob lynching incidences. Also, accountability of government officials are very important, that are government officials working in that area, or are they responsible for maintaining law and order? So for that, accountability is very important, and in cases of negligence, these government officials, including police officers, administrative officials, they will be held accountable, and states, they have to initiate actions against such officials who have failed to enforce law and order in cases the mob lynching violences happen in that area. Also, many legislative measures can also be taken, which was highlighted by Supreme Court. First of all, the Parliament of India should pass a law or a separate laws that should detail the instances of mob lynching and also administer what kind of punishment should be given to individuals, as there is currently no specific law around mob lynching incidences. Now, following this judgment, actually many states like Rajasthan, Manipur, they have enacted the law, but a national law which has been passed by Parliament is still not there. So this is what the Supreme Court has said on how to control mob lynching incidences and what should do in cases mob lynching incidences happen, that how you should punish the criminal, how you should hold the officials accountable, and how you should compensate the victims that have been affected by the mob lynching incidences. Understood? Now let us try to solve this question. Consider the following statements regarding the public interest litigation. Now this PIL, it was introduced by Supreme Court to expand access to justice for marginalized section of society. Yes, it is right. PIL was initiated because we have seen many sections of people living in India, they do not have an idea what the law is. So that is why even if the law is violated, they are not able to go to the courts just because of the fact they don't know it. So that is why by relaxing the locus standi, even a third person who is unrelated to the victim, they may file the case in the courts of the country. That is the PIL is all about. The second statement, any person including a non-Indian citizen can file a PIL in the Indian court. It is right. As I have told you, the persons who are eligible to file the PIL, the criteria has been relaxed a lot. That is why even a non-resident person can actually file the PIL. So second statement right. Only the Supreme Court of India has the authority to entertain PILs in India. This is incorrect, because even high courts in the country, just because of Article 226, which provides the right of high courts to hear writ petitions in cases of violation of fundamental right, this provides the authority even to high courts of our country to listen to PIL. So third statement becomes incorrect. First and second is right. We had to identify correct statement. Option A here is the right answer. Yes, Sejal, option A was right. Now, as I tell you every day, in case you have difficulties in understanding key and static portion of the UPSC syllabus, I have a solution for you, and that solution is called as Sampoorn Batch. Now, Sampoorn Batch is actually nothing but a foundational batch which provides you with the study material, which provides you classes for all the subjects related to UPSC exam, and it also provides you the option of getting prelims as well as mains test series so that you can practice your learning that is given to you in the classes. Also, you'll be provided with a 24/7 support of mentors that will help you guide on how to prepare in a better manner. So, these are the benefits of Sampoorn Batch. Now, how to enroll for Sampoorn Batch? Let me tell you this. Now, go to our StudyIQ website, and going to StudyIQ website, you will be seeing, or you will be required to create an account here. Now, after you create an account, go to this UPSC Foundation P2I Live Batches, click on Explore Courses. Now, as soon as you click on Explore Courses, there will be many courses that will be appearing for 2026, for 2027. So, for example, if you want to enroll for a 2026 batch, that is if you are giving prelims next year. So, click on this. Now, right now, the course, as you can see, is available for 36,249 rupees. But I have a way in which you can get it for even less amount of money. For example, there must be a ticker that must be flashing on the bottom half of your screen, and it says use the code ATS Live for maximum discounts on all StudyIQ courses, right? So, click on buy now. You will be required to add a promo code here. So, click on add promo code, and you have to enter a coupon code. Enter the coupon code called as ATS Live, right? And click on apply. As soon as you click on ATS Live, you will be seeing here that the course value from 36,249, the fees has reduced to 28,999. That is the saving of 7,249 rupees. Now, this is a very important saving. As you understand, earning money is a very tough job that your parents or you must be doing. So, that is why you need to save your hard-earned money, and you can do so by applying the code ATS Live on our StudyIQ website in the add promo code section and gain the benefits of Sampoorn Batch. And in my opinion, this is the best batch that is available for online courses, as it provides you everything that is necessary for you to clear prelims examination, right? Now, let us go back to our today's discussion. Give me a minute. Now, this article, this appeared on yesterday's newspaper on 14th page, and this article actually talks about the fact that there are neurological respiratory disorders that have been revealed after a probe done by the government of Uttar Pradesh. Now, as I was saying, there is probe that is going on by the Uttar Pradesh government on how, or actually how, these Kanpur tanneries, they are affecting the health of people living in Uttar Pradesh. So, this is the context of our today's discussion. Now, you understand tanneries, these are places where you process the leather that is from raw leather. You are processing them into leather which can be used to manufacture bags, jackets, etc. Right? Now, these tanneries, in order to process these leathers, they require the use of harmful chemicals. Now, these harmful chemicals, they come into contact with the persons who are working in those tanneries and also persons living nearby, as if the effluents which are discharged from these tanneries, they found themselves into the nearby water bodies, into the nearby soil, thereby affecting the health of people. And the tests that have been conducted after the orders of National Green Tribunal, the test conducted by UP government, it has found out that people who live near these tanneries, they are suffering from medical conditions ranging from respiratory to neurological disorders. And the primary pollutants that are responsible for such diseases are chromium, mercury, lead, arsenic, sulfur compounds, as well as ammonia, right? So let us try to understand how these chemicals, they impact human health. Now, there are prevalence of many chemicals including hexavalent chromium, which causes lung cancer, kidney and liver damage, skin ulcers, as well as respiratory diseases. Whereas mercury leads to neurological disorders, cognitive impairment and even kidney failure. Coming to lead, it causes brain damage, development disorders, as well as cardiovascular diseases, whereas arsenic, it increases the risk of skin, lung and bladder cancers. So all of them, if you can see, they are actually carcinogenic in nature. What is carcinogenic in nature? Any compound that creates a chances of cancer happening, that is called as carcinogenic compounds. So all of these directly or indirectly can cause cancer and many other disorders, neurological, skin based, respiratory disorders. So these are the harmful chemicals that you should remember. Now, if you are liking this session, a humble request from me, please do not forget to hit the thumbs up button on the YouTube, and also let us know in the comments after this session ends whether or not you are finding these sessions helpful. Now, these kind of initiatives that the students do for us, it is quite encouraging for us so that we can do these sessions on an everyday basis, right? As this hard work requires a form of motivation also. So please do that. Now, coming to the next article, this one actually appeared on page 21 yesterday's newspaper, and it stated that Sudan, it has displaced Somalia as the most corrupt nation. And how is actually Sudan be called most corrupt nation? Because a corruption perception index which has been brought by an NGO called as Transparency International, it highlights the state of public sector corruption worldwide. So let us try to understand what is this corruption perception index and little bit about the Transparency International. Now, corruption perception index, it is an index which ranks 180 countries and territories based on the corruption that happens in their public sector. So, does it determine private sector corruption? The answer is no. Now, the score of corruption, it is done on a scale of 0 to 100, and if the scale is 0 or the score is 0, that means the country is highly corrupt. Whereas if the score is 100, that means the country is actually free from corruption, right? Now, to determine the score, the agency, it uses 13 data sources which it sources from various reports of World Bank, IMF, World Economic Forum and even private risk consulting firms. So the data used is from governmental, non-governmental as well as private sector bodies. However, it only determines or it only assesses corruption that happens in the public sector and not in private sector. So please remember that. Now, as per the latest corruption perception index for 2024, the global average score for corruption perception, it remained at 43, which was unchanged from last year. However, what is important to note that 2/3 countries in this index, they have a score below 50, which means that the corruption is spread across the world. Also, in terms of India's ranking or India stand in this rating, it is India stands at 96 out of 180 countries with a score of 38, and this actually has declined by 1 point from the past year. Now, in terms of least corruption countries according to this index, the highest score or the toppers of this index was Denmark, followed by Finland, Singapore and New Zealand. Whereas the bottom half of the index, it is captured by countries like South Sudan, which has the lowest rating, that is having the highest corruption, followed by Somalia, Venezuela and Syria. So this is the most corrupt country, followed by Somalia, Venezuela as well as Syria. So please remember that. Now, what is this NGO called as Transparency International? This is an NGO which is headquartered in Berlin, located in Germany, and it was founded in 1993. Now, this NGO, it works to combat corruption and also to promote transparency and hold governments accountable. Now, this corruption perception index, it is a flagship report of this body and it has been brought annually since 1995. Whereas other key publications by this Transparency International, it includes Global Corruption Barometer as well as Global Corruption Report. So please remember these. Corruption Perception Index, Global Corruption Barometer and Global Corruption Report are the three important reports and indices which are brought by the body called as Transparency International. Understood? Now let us see if you are able to solve this question or not. Now good morning Bishwabrata Chaudhary, good morning. I hope I am pronouncing your name right, Bishwabrat. Okay. Now consider the following publication: Corruption Perception Index, World Governance Indicators, Global Corruption Barometer. Which of the following is published by the NGO called as Transparency International? I told you Corruption Perception Index, as we have already discussed it. Global Corruption Barometer, as I have told you in the last slide. But does World Governance Indicators is brought by Transparency International? The answer is no. It is brought by none other than World Bank. So first and third is right, second is incorrect from this question's perspective. Therefore, option C here, 1 and 3 is the right answer. Now moving to the next article. This article appeared in the explain section and it states that the shape of Earth's inner core, it might have changed, and that can create a lot of different kind of problems. So let us understand why. Why is this article actually talking about the change in Earth's inner core? Now recent scientific studies that have suggested that the shape of Earth's inner core, which was previously thought to be solid and unchanging, it has actually deformed significantly in the last 20 years. Now, what is Earth's inner core? Which you can see from this, there are several layers of Earth. The outermost layer is known as crust, followed by mantle and then core. Now, this core is divided into two halves. Outer core consists of liquid, whereas inner core is made up of solid elements. Understood? So this article is actually talking about this solid part of the inner core, whereas outer core is lying outside it, right? So this article is talking about this solid part of the core. So let us try to understand what is the core consisting of. Now Earth's core is located at about a distance 6,400 kilometers beneath the surface of the Earth. Now this inner core, as I have already told you, consists of two main layers. First is inner core, which is a solid sphere made up of mostly of elements known as iron and nickel, whereas the outer core, it is a layer of molten liquid metal or liquid that surrounds the inner core, right? Now the shape of outer core, which is a solid, it determines how the liquid form of inner core, it flows over it, right? Or outer core, that is the liquid outer core, how it flows over the solid inner core, that is determined by the Earth, right? So as it was originally estimated that the inner core was actually solid and unchanging. So the value of flowing of the outer core might not be changing. However, this change in core Earth's magnetic field, it also determines how the Earth's magnetic field will change. For example, the motion of liquid core, it generates Earth's magnetic field, which is a process known as geodynamic effect. Now this geodynamic effect, it also results into how the magnetic field around the Earth is constituted. Now this magnetic field around the Earth, it shields the Earth from harmful solar radiation and it prevents Earth's atmosphere from being stripped away from the outer solar atmosphere. Now you must be learning about the phenomenon of green lights that happens over Greenland, also known as Australia Borealis. These kind of phenomena only happen just because there is a magnetic field outside the Earth's atmosphere, and when solar radiations, they interact with these magnetic field, they create these kind of atmospheric phenomena. Now these magnetic field, they are determined by the flow of outer core or the liquid core, right? Now if Earth's magnetic field were to weaken or disappear, the life would be exposed to extreme solar radiation, therefore making this planet an uninhabitable planet, similarly to like of Mars. So that is why understanding the process of how Earth's magnetic field happens, or what if it stays there, it is very important for the health of Earth in general, right? Now the studies have actually found out that the inner core, which usually was thought to be spherical, it has experienced deformations in the about 100 meters in height in some of the regions. Now these deformations, they were detected using seismic wave analysis. As you may have heard in geography syllabus, there are two types of seismic waves, P waves as well as S waves. Now these waves, they travel different portion of Earth's inner core depending upon the nature of these waves. Understood? Now by understanding the analysis of these waves, the scientists have actually able to understand whether or not the inner core is changing or how is it is changing, and they have inferred the fact that it is deformed up to 100 meters in depth. Now most significant change, it occurred around 2010 when the inner core, it slowed down temporarily before catching up with the Earth's rotation. So that is why if the inner core, it changes its shape, that is why the liquid flowing over it from the outer core, it might also change, and that will create a changes into the Earth's magnetic field. So that is why this seismic study was studying about it. Now, how these scientists measure these changes? Now, direct exploration of the core, you understand, is impossible. You cannot drill 6,400 kilometer deep into the earth. So that is why you have to rely on seismic waves which are generated by earthquakes, as I have told you already, primary waves and secondary waves. Now when these waves, they pass through different layers, be it solid, liquid, they behave differently, and that is why they change speed and direction based on the material composition that they encounter. And by analyzing these seismic waves pattern, the researchers, they can infer the structure and motion of inner core. And the significance of this finding is that it challenges the previous assumption that the structural changes in Earth's inner core, they happen only once in million and thousand years and not in 20 or 30 years. So this study has actually changed the common perception that has been held by the geographers around the world. Now let us solve a very basic question on the Earth's core. The first statement, the Earth's outer core is in a liquid state and plays a crucial role in generating the planet's magnetic field. I told you Earth's inner core is solid whereas outer core is in liquid state. So first statement is right, as it helps determine the planet's magnetic field. The second statement, the inner core remains solid due to its lower temperature when compared to outer core. Now why does the inner core remain solid whereas outer core is liquid? Now this is because the huge pressure that is there on the outer or on the inner core. So that is why it is not due to lower temperature, because temperature is higher in outer core. However, it is due to the increased pressure, that is the inner core remains a solid. So second statement becomes incorrect. First is right. We had to identify correct statement. Option A here is the right answer. Now moving to the last article of the day. This article actually appeared in the front page of yesterday's newspaper, and it told us that the Supreme Court has issued directions to ECI, that is Election Commission of India, how it should undertake the process of EVM verification that happens after every election. So this is the context of our today's discussion, that the Supreme Court of India has actually asked ECI to ensure that the polling data which is there or stored in the EVMs, they are not deleted before the verification step happens. So let us understand first of all what is these EVMs are all about. Now these are microcontroller based instruments that are used to give vote in every election in India. Now this EVM, they actually consist of three units. First is a control unit, which is this is actually consisting of the inner working or the processor of the EVM, and this is followed by a ballot unit, simply where you cast your vote, that has buttons in it. Whereas the third unit is called as verifiable paper audit trail, also known as VVPAT machine, that after you cast your vote into the ballot unit, there is a chit that comes in this VVPAT machine that highlights the symbol of the party for which you have voted. So you can see and verify that actually the vote that I have given is actually reflected in the VVPAT machine. So this VVPAT, it consists of three units, or the EVM consists of three units: control unit, ballot unit and VVPAT machine. Now this machine or EVM, they are running on ordinary battery, so they do not need to plug for it to power, and also these are assembled by Election Commission of India with the collaboration of two PSUs, ECIL as well as BEL. And in 1988, a new section, that is section 61A, was inserted into the Representation of People Act that gives Election Commission the power to use EVMs for every election in the country, and it replaced the balloting units that were used before. Now there are key features that makes EVM a very good method to cast your votes. First of all, that it is a non-reprogrammable device, that once it is being manufactured and a program has been fitted into EVMs, they cannot be changed after the manufacturing processes. Also, this EVM, they do not have any source of external communication. There is no SIM, no Wi-Fi, nothing. So it cannot communicate it with any other devices, right? Also, they have a secure source code which is developed in-house by the PSUs that are manufacturing EVM. So that is why you cannot say the source code has been changed by any other authority. Also, this EVM has a safety mechanism that it allows voter to cast their vote only once, and only after the election or presiding officer of that polling booth will enable the EVM, then only the next voter can be given in that EVM. Also, the time stamping of vote is done so that to ensure a verifiable audit trail even after the election concludes. Further, this EVM, they have the ability to self-diagnose, that in case of tampering, they will be shutting down automatically. Also, there are many procedural checks and balances that are used by Election Commission of India so as to tell people that actually EVMs are foolproof and tamper-proof. First of all, they run very functional checks and trial run before the elections happen, and they also include multi-stage testing and dry runs. Also, post-election, they are secured and stored in a very safe manner, and they are also included for ensuring that free and fair election is happening. Now, additional checks have been now imposed, that is, earlier VVPAT was not there, but after the Supreme Court judgment, VVPAT was also brought, and it gives you the idea that actually the vote that you have pressed in the ballot unit, the similar party symbol has been reflected in VVPAT. Then you can say that my vote is actually been casted, and the similar vote for which I have pushed the button is actually reflected in the VVPAT. So these are the key features that makes EVM a very good method in voting of the elections. Now, this use of VVPAT has actually brought India at a significant advantage. First of all, it invalidates the possibility of invalid votes. That was the case with ballot unit, because if you would not to stamp your vote properly, then that would be called as an invalid vote. But this cannot happen in EVM, because you have to press the button and then only your vote will be casted. Now, it is very easy to use also and accessible to people, even for people who cannot see, as there are braille scripts written there, and also it consists of the symbol of the parties, so that even the illiterate people, they'll be able to vote for their candidate of the selection. Further, they are very safe and secure, that earlier during the process of ballot or postal ballots, we have seen that the instances of booth capturing were to happen, that a party and its member would capture a booth and they will stamp all the ballots with their particular vote, and this cannot happen with EVM, as it requires to be, or it will be shutting down just because the frequent voting is happening. Now, the most important feature of EVM, that it enables quick counting, that even in developed countries like US, you have seen counting, they are going on for weeks, but whereas in India, how big an election, no matter that, the election counting will conclude in the same day itself. Hence, the result will be declared and you will be know who will the winner. So this is how the use of EVM is quite beneficial for India, because it enables quick counting, and hence the all sorts of controversies, etc., will be done away with. Now, every process is completely auditable. As the EVMs, you will be able to see that as soon as you cast your vote, you will be able to see in VVPAT the amount of vote that you have given, and the process of checks also enable that every process enables that the EVMs use are actually working or not, and they are stored after the election in a safe storage facility. And also they have used, or they have reduced the use of paper, therefore the process of election has also become quite eco-friendly. Right. So this is the benefit of EVM. Now, there were many questions on the credibility of EVM, and there are many steps that the Election Commission of India have taken in order to ensure that actually the use of EVMs are quite creditable. First of all, that VVPAT were introduced, as I have told you, and also these VVPAT slips, they are counted after the election, so that the VVPAT actually matches the count with the ballot unit and how much votes are counted. Also, ECI, or the Election Commission of India, have actually challenged many political actors or parties to demonstrate whether or not they can hack the EVMs or not. And after ECI challenge, no party showed up in that challenge. So you can understand, claiming that EVMs can be hacked is one thing, but actually proving it to people is very different. So that is why even after the challenges, no party actually came forward with how they can tamper with EVMs. Also, the process of election, it continues, or it sees the participation of all the stakeholders, that the party workers, they are shown that actually the EVMs are working, and they are also allowed to be stationed near to the places where the EVMs are stored, so that they can ensure the other party walas are not tampering the EVMs. So this is how the entire step of credibility was ensured by ECI, so that people know that the EVMs are foolproof, tamper proof, etc. Now the Supreme Court of India has actually issued directions to EVM how to verify the votes given in EVM after the completion of election. Now, in this direction, the first step that the Supreme Court of India has highlighted, that ECI will not erase or reload the data before the verification process concludes, and it also verified the process of verification. First of all, the burnt memory in the EVMs that are burnt during the manufacturing process, they will be checked in the presence of requesting candidates, and also the engineers from the EVM manufacturers, they must certify that no tampering has actually occurred to the EVM. So this is how the ECI will ensure trust of the political parties. Also, there will be reduction in the cost of verification, as currently parties will need to pay 40,000 rupees per EVM verification, which according to Supreme Court is too high. Therefore, the ECI should reduce this cost so as to encourage the verification from happening even from the smaller parties who cannot afford such a big amount of money. Also, ECI should give a short affidavit on how it tries to undertake verification procedure, so that the Supreme Court knows the exact procedure that the ECI uses to verify the EVMs. Further, the candidates who are eligible to seek verification are actually the candidates who have stood second and third in the election. So actually they can file the application so that to seek verification, and the scope of verification is that it includes counting of 5% of EVMs per assembly segment, and not all EVMs but only 5% of EVMs they are verified. Now the application process is that the candidate, they must submit a written request within 7 days after the results are declared, and then only the EVMs will be verified, and the authority who will be conducting the verification will be the district election officer. Also, the cost and refund actually is borne by the candidates themselves, but if they will be able to prove that the EVM has been tampered with, this cost will be refunded back by the ECI to the candidates themselves. Understood? Now let us try to understand how to solve this practice question. Good morning, namaskar, Doraemon gamers. You join this session late every day. Why is it that you join this session late every day, Doraemon? Now let us try to solve this question. With the introduction of EVMs in India, electoral process has been a significant step forward for free and fair election. However, concerns about their security and reliability continue to persist. So in that light, critically analyze the role of EVM in strengthening democracy in India and suggest measures to address the associated challenge. So here you need to start your answer by telling what the EVM is, that it is a non-reprogrammable device that is used to register and counting of votes. You will also add an additional information that the use of EVM is actually sanctioned as per the provisions of RPA 1951. Understood? So this particular fact will give weight to your introduction, as the invigilator or the person who is checking your paper will know that you actually know things about this answer, right? So this is how you add facts to substantiate your introduction. Also, now let us try to understand how to write the body part of this answer. Now you are to require critically analyze, right? So first you will write advantages of EVM, that I'll tell you already, that it enables quick counting, the process is verifiable, no booth capturing. So these are the advantages. Now you will also highlight what are the concerns associated with EVM. I have told you, right, the concerns that have been highlighted here, that the verification process or what the Supreme Court is saying. So right here in the concerns part, the Supreme Court's direction on how to make the process of verification inclusive, less costly and transparent. And how you will conclude your answer? You will conclude your answer by saying that although use of EVMs is desirable and beneficial for India, but we also need to ensure that the process itself is quite credible, and for that we need to ensure that the persons who are alleging the tampering of EVMs, their doubt should be done away with in a very transparent and inclusive manner. So this is how you will conclude your answer. Now I want to see how you are writing this answer in the Telegram channel. So please use this Telegram channel to submit your answers and let us see who writes the best answer today. Also, I will be evaluating only those answers that have been given today, and the previous answers will not be evaluated after today onwards. So this is actually I will be doing so that you write your answers on a daily basis and you do not submit your answers 4 or 5 days afterwards, right? So please write your answers. I will evaluate them today itself, and tomorrow onwards I will be following or evaluating tomorrow's answer only, right? So this is all for today's discussion. Please do watch our session that goes live every day at 10 a.m. Until then, keep reading, keep revising, and more importantly, keep writing answers. I'll see you again tomorrow.